Hello and welcome, my friends. I didn't put a topic on this video because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about. I know it's been a minute since I've been up here. I've been working on some musical projects and I've got more of that to do. So these actual videos may be a little bit more infrequent, but bear with me. And if you have any questions or topics that you'd like to talk about, certainly leave them comments in any of these videos and I'd be happy to get to them. I was thinking a lot about the fact that mostly when we watch videos that are spiritual teachings, instructional meditation, whatever it is that we're working on in our spiritual lives, I recognize that there's one thing in common with those that is a problem really for all of us, and that is our mindset that we're starting at a place, heading toward a place. That sort of timeline. We grew up with this whole idea that you do things and that causes you to achieve things and gain things and get things. But the reality of life is that you are life, and just as you are right now, and the only thing preventing you from knowing it, I mean knowing it, I'm not talking about knowledge in your mind or in your head, is this business of I have to do this to get this, and this business of achieving. Because in fact, the person that is trying to achieve is already there. So there is, in reality, no person. These are hard concepts to comprehend, but remember that your whole idea of yourself is created through all these things that people have told you and all these things that you have learned, and you sort of start to feel like, okay, I have a knowledge of self, and now that I have a knowledge of self, I have a knowledge of other people, and when they're not like me, I kind of just spread that even farther. I don't recognize the central being that I am, and that I am part of everything, and I am everything. I don't recognize that because I'm too busy establishing who I am. And remember who you are. If you really think about this, and this is something you can think about logically, who you really are is an accumulation of your thoughts. I know I've done videos on meditation and exercises and things that help slow down your thinking. Now, this is kind of a misnomer because your thoughts just come up. They just come up, and you don't have any control of what comes up and what goes. The point of those exercises, though, is to slow them down at least enough so you can sort of start getting in touch with that intuition self, that part that doesn't care about thoughts, that part that ignores the fact that thoughts come up and doesn't put any weight on them. I mean, you know, this is what happens. This is part of being a human being, and you need your mind to do certain things or certain functions. But when you start putting weight on these things and thinking that they mean anything, what happens is you begin creating this sense of self. I'm a person that does this. I'm a person that achieved this, or I'm a person who doesn't like this. Our body and our mind, we have preferences, right? But we make that part of our identity. And in truth, in fact, we don't really have an identity but those thoughts. Those are the only things that are created, the stories that we've created. You know, a lot of people's problems with addictions is because they've convinced themselves somewhere, maybe on the surface, somewhere deep inside, that they can't undo this, that this is something that they're not capable of doing. So that's a story. And that story causes them to not bother because they've already, established that story within themselves. Now, I know I'm, going on and on and on about a bunch of different things here, but bear with me because this is why I didn't title it, because what I really wanted to talk about was those moments in your life when you let go of these stories and you let go of this sense of self. You've had them. You may have them frequently. I don't know how often everybody experiences this, but when something happens, say a crisis happens, and you're so focused on what to do and how to deal with that, that the you part of it is gone. You're just not there. You're just responding to what you need to respond to, or you're watching maybe one of your children and they're playing and they find a turtle or something and they're so fascinated, and you're just there watching them, and you're absorbing that energy, and you're not there anymore. See, these are the times when what we have termed enlightenment exists. So it's always there, and the only thing preventing it is this idea of self, this idea of stories, this idea that you're separate from everybody else, this whole thing that we've built. So when people say, well, I don't know if I can be enlightened because it's really difficult, you have to do this and this and that, there are no steps. There are no steps. It's a reversal of steps. So basically, if you've built stories and stories and stories and beliefs and opinions and all this stuff, it's the moments that you let go of all those. It's the moment that those don't mean anything to you. It's the moment when nothing that you've created in your mind about yourself makes any difference whatsoever, because it's really a non-reality. Okay? And the idea of coming up with a question, well, if that's the case, then why? Now you're adding more. See, so you can take any thoughts that you have and any questions that you had, and you can start adding more and adding more. And what you're doing is trying to go back and build this knowledge base, trying to go back and support these beliefs that you have created and that you have sort of built. You don't want to see that fall apart. So whether consciously or unconsciously, you're supporting it in some way. And the joke of it is, it sounds very complicated, especially the way that I'm saying it. But the bottom line is, it's exactly the opposite of that. It is just being and existing and paying no mind or no attention or giving no weight to time and to your stories and to your thoughts and to your opinions. And it's about not giving any attention or weight to those. They come, they go. So these are, like I say, these are the moments that you really do understand what being enlightened is about. And so to increase those moments and to increase that time and to live in that space, you have to give up a lot. You have to give up who you thought you were. You have to give up the idea that other people are going to think you're weird now because you don't seem to have the identity. They have an identity, and you're throwing yours away. They have an ego. You thought, now all these words, they're just words. There's no ego. There's no real identity. There is just you as a being, and you are connected with every other being. And it's a whole. It's not parts of a whole. It's a whole. So when you are lost in something and totally focused in something, you're there and you recognize you are part of that whole. The problem is, what we end up getting lost in is not that space where we let ourselves and let our stuff go. We get lost in the stuff that we're trying to build to hold our little identity together. So this is why a lot of teachers will tell you, I don't have anything to teach you, and I kind of get that, because you already are what you don't know that you are. And the only reason you don't know what you are is because of all this stuff that you piled on top of it, keeping you from experiencing everything, experiencing even the joy and the sorrow and the madness of your own life. I mean, all these things happen, but we resist the crazy stuff, and we resist the anger, and we resist the things that we already have termed in our little minds as negative. We resist it all. And the more resistance that you place on something, the farther away you're getting from the truth. And the truth is really what you want. What is going on now? We talk about past and present and future as if future exists or past exists. They don't exist. And I know a lot of people talk about presence. I've talked about presence. I've talked, infinitum about living in the moment. But in fact, what is that moment? there isn't any moment really, because the minute that the moment happens is another moment. It's a very a small little blip. So what that really says when you're talking about living in the moment is not being concerned with the past, not being concerned with your opinions of yourself and your issues and what's going to happen tomorrow, and letting that stuff go and living your life to the fullest in every moment. I hope that makes some kind of sense. Look, I realize that this is a difficult topic for some. There'll be more on this because you might have noticed that this year a lot of changes are taking place for all of us. And I think as this happens, we may be compelled to talk about these things more, and compelled to really look into, you know, why do I feel I have things that I have to do to get to where I'm trying to go? I can tell you the honest truth is you don't have those things to do. You don't have those things to do. And the less you do, and the less you build this block and this image of yourself, the more you're going to see that you never really had any of this to accomplish. You were born into this world with everything that you are, and you're perfection in and of itself, and the only thing keeping you from thinking that is the thoughts that you're taking seriously. So before I belabor the point, I hope this makes some sense. I will look at this video and I'll edit some of my ramblings out if need be, but if you have any questions or want to talk about any aspects of this, just leave a comment in the box below. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in.